Okay, my next challenge is to replace the compliance bushings on the back of the control arms on this 2013 Mini Cooper R56 base model. Basically, normally you would not be doing it this way. I've already pulled the subframe because I'm putting a clutch in it, and that's a necessary step, and so I thought this might actually be a better way to show the process, since you'll be able to see the hardware you're dealing with out here in the open. Obviously, there are bolts that have been moved from the chassis, basically, that bolt the other side of this compliance bushing housing into the car. The other two are, this is all part of this housing, these two bolts that hold the sway bar on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the entire sway bar and the mounts, and go ahead and rather than just replace these entirely, which I would say it'd be a perfectly fine thing to do. They're not that expensive. But this is a budget car. I was shooting for a $2,000 budget. I think I'm going to go over. But even so, I was trying to save a buck. So I just got new bushings to press in to the old housing. So here we go. You can see this is a good time to hold everything up against each other to make sure it looks like it'll fit. Diameters are right. Looks like the length is right. Everything's right. So what we'll do is go ahead and just buzz these bolts off. Have get the sway bar out of the way, and get these mounts off, and that'll have the side effect of making this whole thing a whole lot lighter. So when I haul it outside to pressure wash it, it won't give me a hernia. I'll come back and hit that one tomorrow after the PB blasters had a chance to soak in. Okay, it's now tomorrow. Well, in a relative sense. And it's time to try this again. Let's see if the PB blaster soaking overnight on the bad spots had any effect. I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, just cranked on it with a breaker bar, got it loose. I don't know why the impact didn't get it, but clearly good to go now. So okay, also notice the spacers under this side, which are integral to the actual subframe, which is interesting. But at this point, I should be able to lift off the whole sway bar mechanism, separating it from the... There you go. Separating it from the subframe. And now the rear bushings should be capable of being driven off the control arms. So, okay, it's time to remove the bushing from the control arm itself. So I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of PB blaster, loosen it up, hit it with a couple pry bars. Should take it right off. Probably easier to do it off the car, out from under the car this way, but this is what we're dealing with, folks. And you can see the reason that I replaced these is they actually didn't look that bad, but if you look really closely on the inside there, let me see if I can get a little more light on it. There are cracks in the rubber whenever you stress it. I don't know if that's really showing up very well, but basically, it's probably, I've never driven this car, this is a project car, but it's probably not riding that bad right now, to be honest, but The thing is, it's just a matter of time before these do fail and cause looseness and shimmy in the front end, wobble under braking, things like that. So, gonna replace them while I got this subframe out. All right, now that you got this out, there's a few ways you can go about this. If you have one of these kits with the for bearing presses, what you're looking for is you want to have a tube that's the right size to press the inner race out. It has to be smaller than the hole in the housing, but big enough to contact the actual bushing frame itself. So see, this one will pass through the hole and will push on that, so that's good. And now we need another one that's big enough to fit over the entire assembly and live on the outside there. So let's see, that one will do fine. So basically, here's what we got. Okay, now when we pull really hard between these two, this one is going to go that way, and it's going to take the bearing with it. Now, take a look at see where the edges are. It's symmetrical, so that's really not going to be too tough to work out. So when we press the new one in, we want it to end up in the same spot. Also, we need to know where the points go. So you can see we got a hex arrangement in there, and you can see that the points on the hex with these points here, this is not at all symmetrical. This is only goes in one way, or maybe two ways, either way. But you want to line everything up here. These points on the housing with these points on the bushing, and you can see that corresponds to some of the 6 point, two of the 6 points inside. So let's see if we can get this thing pressed out just using this. I do have a 12-ton press if I have problems, but I probably won't need it. I'm guessing this will do it. Okay, getting it assembled. Put the end caps on here. Screw down the threads. And alignment doesn't really matter until we get close here. All right, and okay, as you can see, we've bottomed out against the inner, basically this cap here. So that's as far as we can press it, but it's nearly out. Just needs a little love tap to come the rest of the way. So I'm going to set it up. Okay, give it a little love tap, and it's out. All right, that wasn't too bad. And again, you can see the symmetry that's involved in getting this one pressed in. Now we just need to get the other one pressed in, and that's kind of the equal but opposite process. All right, going to run a piece of sandpaper around the inside of this just to clean off any rust and debris that might be making our job just a little bit harder. I'm going to give it a little spritz of pretty much any kind of lube will probably do it. I'm going to use some PB Blaster because I know that's slick. Now I'm going to take my quality new bushing, and again, let's make sure and get it lined up. So these tabs, let me turn on some light here. Whoop, that was light. Okay, these tabs line up with these tabs, and I'm going to try to get it started with just a little bit of force. That'll just make pressing it in a whole lot easier. There are other tricks that you could use. You could actually heat this outer housing and drop your bushing in the freezer. And then when you go to press it in, it's going to go in just a lot easier. But I'm a glutton for punishment, so I'm not going to do that today. So let's get a little more lube around the outside of this so we're not fighting anything unnatural. And we basically are going to end up doing the same process where I'm going to be pressing this one home using the same tools, but obviously just a slightly different alignment. So let's go ahead and put this in. And okay, let's see, let's go. Okay, let's put this all together. So it goes in this way. We could use the old bushing actually. That's a kind of cool trick. You can actually use the old part to drive in the new one if you like, and that really would work just quite well. So I'll actually do it that way. Okay, gonna cheat and use a little enhanced mechanical means. Alright, got just a tiny bit more to go here on the press, finishing it off the easy way, the lazy man's way. If you got a press, use it. Up here in the press, I'm getting close to having a fully in. You can see it needs another just a couple, 3 millimeters. Let's see if I can do that without blocking the lens. Okay, there we go, folks. Got one of them in. It was a lot more difficult than I expected. For whatever reason, the bushing was just very sticky going through the last third of its travel. Next time I'm going to put the bushing in the freezer. I'm going to heat the housing, and then I'm just going to use my press. Should make it easy. All right, the last I did the other bushing. Fought me tooth and nail using just a regular bushing driver. I'm just going to go ahead and use a shop press and just make the whole process a lot cleaner and simpler. So I'm using essentially they're just big steel tubes. One that's big enough for the bushing to clear on the way out, and this one that's small enough to push on the metal part of the bushing but still clear the inside of this housing. So now it should just be a matter of bringing the press down and applying up to 12 tons of force to get that get the old bushing out. And there it goes. That's a whole lot easier, folks. There we go. Old bushing is out. And the new one's ready to go in. Okay, I'm going to put just a little bit of lube on the outside of the bushing just to keep it, just to give us every possible advantage. I also had this in the freezer for really just a few minutes. It's not all that cold, but it's cooler than it would be otherwise. And also, just to make sure, these points here correspond with these tabs on the inside here. So that's very, very important. If you don't get this right, the whole thing's just not going to work, folks. So, okay, I got it aligned. It's ready to start pressing in. I just got to get the rest of the hardware in place, and we'll get started. Okay, these don't always go in perfectly straight the first time, so might have to make an adjustment or two. Okay, so it's going in. Looks like it's going in pretty straight. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to adjust my angle just a tiny bit. I get the feeling that it needs a little more push on the near side there. So let's make that adjustment. See if that straightens it out. Okay, I think that's got it. Now I'm going to go back to center. Again, don't be afraid to make adjustments and take your time, because if you get it crooked, you could actually warp the new housing, the new bushing housing. Okay, it's going in nice and easy now, so I'm pretty sure I got it. The other thing is, we have the old one as a guide here to kind of give us an idea exactly how far we need to drive this in. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that as we get close. And you can see it's kind of jumping in increments. There's enough internal, there's enough drag where it's jumping, and we actually need just a tiny bit more. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it. I might get too much. Oh, let's see. That looks pretty good, actually. So let's see what we got. See if we got it pretty close to square. Oh, yeah. Beautiful job. So there we go. Bushing is in. It's symmetrical. And we're ready to install these both back in the subframe. All right, but before I put this subframe back in the car, since I've got it out and it'll be easy to clean here and very difficult after I put it back, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some engine degreaser, basically grease dissolving solvent, and then I'm going to power wash it so that when I put it back in, it'll look much, much better. Okay, gonna let it sit for a couple minutes to let the solvent in the degreaser do its job. Okay, here we go. Alright, the subframe's pretty clean. I'm finding just little tiny traces of rust where it's been subjected to probably a little salt, a little winter conditions. So I'm going to go ahead and touch these up just a little bit with some plain old black spray paint. Nothing fancy, just make it look that much better after it gets installed. Now, a little acetone and a microfiber cloth to wipe it down. Okay, this side has a little more rust. Again, just surface rust. There's nothing here that's the least bit concerning from a structural standpoint, but it'll just look nicer if I touch it up. Same process, wire wheel, acetone rag, cheap rust paint. And the rust paint I'm using also is designed to bond with rust to keep it from keep it from coming back and to stop its progress. So that's why I'm not worried about getting absolute surgical cleanliness on this. So, all right, let me grind her down, get it fixed. All right, now it's time to start reacquainting the bushings with the control arms. I'm going to put just a little bit of synthetic grease inside the bore and just a tiny smear on the shaft itself to see if I can get it to slide on easily. You want to test fit this, make sure that it makes sense. So when it's in place, everything's going to line up. This is the angle you want on this. Is the bolt goes through into the essentially firewall that is shaped like this, so that all looks good. I've got the control arm lifted for better access, and again, you want to make sure the hex on the shaft matches the hex in the bushing, and push it on as far as you can. Get it started. Or get it all the way on. Sometimes that happens. So, okay, we're ready to go there. And I may have to wiggle this just a little bit to get the bolts in for the sway bar link, but let me go do the other side now. Okay, and this one's going to put up a proper fight, which is a little more typical, I think. So let's go ahead and apply a little persuasion in the form of a dead blow. It's not really that much force, it's just the dead blow is too transitory, I think. You need to give a good solid push to get this thing to seat. And so that's what I'm doing with these two C-clamps. And we're just about down to the bottom here. That one fell off, but that's all right. And I think that's actually got it. So, okay. Now, assuming this all lines up, whenever I slide these in into place, and it looks pretty darn good, we'll be ready to install our sway bar. Okay, once you get everything lined up, go ahead and get the bolts started, and go ahead and place the other side so that you can get it started as well. Again, line the bushing up, slide the bolts in, put the clamp over, and feel around for the bolt holes. This is another good one. You want to start these finger tight to make sure there's no chance you've got them cross-threaded, because that just might ruin your whole day. So make sure they're in there good, and go find your ratchet. And finish off by applying the recommended torque to the bolts. Alright, the end result of all that is just slightly refurbished and better looking subframe with new bushings ready to go back under the car.